Welcome back to another episode of the spiciest Fresh Crits of Melbourne episode to date. Grab yourself a Cliff Bar and an energy gel, sit back and relax, ladies and gentlemen, because we have got a cracker in store for you today. We're back at one of my favourite courses in Melbourne with Footscray Cycling Club down at Drake Avenue, just outside of Footscray in Altona, where they put on a fantastic crit every Sunday, kicking off A grade at about 11:15. Look, it is a bit of a mission to get out there from Melbourne, but you know, grab a couple of mates and come on down because there's always some slick racing going on. For this one, we've come down for the start of their Footscray Summer Series, which features 3 weeks down at Drake Blvd and then another week at Victoria University. So for this one, we've brought a few of our friends down. You can see here on the left, number 10, that's Nathan. He is a Zone 2 specialist and has ridden almost across America on his gravel bike. So feel free to ask me about that one the next time you see him. To my right, and you'll see him in the rear cam shortly, that's Dean. Dean you've seen in several of our videos racing at Hawthorn as well as down at Glenvale. He's just a hitter. There's not really much more to say, but there's one man I haven't introduced. He's featured before, but you haven't seen him in a while. He's a bit of an enigma. He's never out of form, and he goes pretty okay up Oliver's, but not as fast as me. It's the great Nick Owen. You can see him driving the pace at the front of the race. He's pretty animated because he's telling me how fresh his legs have been all week. But look, enough of that. We're going to skip a little bit ahead. We're going to discuss the wind, the weather, how the course is, the timing, all that kind of stuff. But of course, before I do that, if you like these sorts of videos that I put up, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, tell your friends, spread the word. Let's get stuck into some racing. So on the way out to Footscray, we all got together. We had a bit of a plan of how we wanted this race to kind of pan out. We kind of wanted to wait until 30 to 20 minutes before the end of the race. We'll then send a few of us up the road with the dream of getting us all on the podium. But like with every single plan in every crit race, it never comes together. And it was only, 4.5 minutes in, where Deano decides, there's a couple of guys that's just gone up the road here. I want to get involved in that. And he just launches across. Doesn't consult anyone. Doesn't, that's the plan, blown out of the water. And we were just being like, okay, mate, we'll see you later. We'll see you in 40 minutes. Thanks for coming. And you're definitely buying coffees and croissants when we finish up. So you can see that up the road there, those two riders have just gone up. And those two riders are Bjorn Williams and Jesse Cropley. So Jesse's in the outrageous pink fluoro skinny. And Bjorn will feature in another one of our videos, so make sure you do subscribe so you can get involved with that. And you can see Dino, bang, off the front he goes. And that's basically the end of that we see him. And with Nathan on the front, number 10, and me second wheel, obviously we're not going to chase this one back because he's our teammate. Our goal now is to try to keep the pace relatively slow, look like we're working hard, and as soon as there's attacks that go up the road, chase them back and disrupt the pace line, because we want to give those guys up the road as much opportunity to get established before the rest of the group brings them back. Now, if the peloton does get enough organised enough to bring it back, then if it does get brought back, both Nathan, myself and Nico need to remain fresh enough so that we can counter if that move gets brought back. And it doesn't take long for the first bout of those attacks to start hitting us real hard. And here goes Jamie, absolutely sending it up the road, following really, really closely by Josh, the club champion. And in this mix, there's some really, really strong riders. So straight away, I'm looking to jump on that wheel and get into that pace line, see if I can disrupt it or at least call them through and be there just to support Dean if that move does get brought back that's up the road currently. But look, let's skip a little bit further ahead. Let's look at some other attacks and where things start to get real spicy. But before I do that, I just wanted to look at Dino's footage of him actually bridging across to that group in front. So you can see he left a little bit of a gap between me so he could run up and catch some draft into it. And he steps on the power, spiking up to 1400 watts. He wants to not only create some separation by the group behind him, but he doesn't want to bring anyone across. The way he takes his line through these corners, he wants to be as short as possible, and he wants to continually pedal through these corners so that he's on the power the whole time. He looks like he freewheels through that one. He sees the guys up a road. He wants to get this done as quick as possible. So he steps on it, launches another quote-unquote sprint to get across through to them. And now essentially he's getting a little bit of a sit as he starts to rein it back, still fully on the pedals. The chain is nice and tight. And then when he finally gets there, you have to ask yourself two questions. Essentially, do you sit in or do you roll to the front? And for Deano, you don't even need to ask him twice. He doesn't even sit in. He just rolls straight to the front. He shows the group that's out in front how committed he is to this break. So it's like, mate, get on my wheel. We're going to take this all the way to the line. Already you can see some gaps opening behind. That's Bjorn there. He's struggling to stay in the wheel. Jesse's the next one to catch up to. And it looks like these guys are kind of, starting to ride tempo. Jesse looks around, sees he's got another breakaway companion. He jumps off the gas a little bit, conserves some energy. Dana doesn't even sit in there. He rolls straight to the front. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to jump into some breaks, that's exactly how you do it. But let's go check out to see what's happening in the peloton. So we picked this one up about 6 minutes later and about just under 30 Ks left. Harry has gone on an absolute fly and I've just managed to catch him back. He's number 16 in front of you in the pink and yellow Total Rush kit. When I finally get him back, you'll see in a second, he flicks me the elbow and I let him know that it's my teammate up the road. It's my teammate now. Now, I don't think Harry took this news on too well. He wanted me to work, so he comes and gives me a really close pass and gives me the good old Stone Cold Steve Austin stare down as he comes past at 700 watts. That was when it all kind of kicked off. I don't think he appreciated that I wasn't going to work and that I was going to chase him down. So, look, we're going to skip a little bit further forward where things kind of get a little bit escalated from here. It's about a lap later, and the group cannot get organised. They can't roll solid turns. There's attacks, people sitting up, not wanting to do any work. And when there's a break up the road, you got to just work regardless. You got to act as like a unit and work. And Harry's really fixated on me. He keeps turning around, looking at me. And against my better judgment, I say to him,
"Race is forward, mate. Look in front. Race is up the road."
And he does not appreciate that, giving me the bird. It is absolutely on down here at Footscray. And, against my better judgment, I probably shouldn't have said anything. But in the heat of the moment, you want to tell people to keep looking forward. You don't need to continually keep looking back. So it gets to this sort of situation now, and things are starting to escalate. The group's trying to roll through. I'm staying in the bunch, just trying to keep it all together. Making sure that I'm going to be there for Dean and my teammate. And the rest of the group that are up there in front of me right now, they know that it's my teammate. We're wearing exactly the same kit. So in reality, they should just be forgetting that I'm there and just rolling solid turns regardless, but they keep getting fixated on where I am at all times. Meanwhile, up the road, Dino's rolling really, really solid turns with his three teammates, and they're just increasing the gap on every lap. So unless these guys get a little bit more organised, that's going to stay that way. But let's skip a little bit further ahead where things escalate to another degree. We've skipped about 5 minutes forward with Dano and the two others still up the road. We got Nico driving a real hard pace on the front. He flicks an elbow to get Jamie to come through. We haven't seen Harry in a while, but you can see him in the rear cam here.
Dude, what the
And he lines me up and hip and shoulders me. It's like he thinks he's in an episode of the Buff Biffs and Brawlers back in the 80s. But, it's insane stuff to think that this is actually happening on a Footscray club race on a Sunday afternoon. But it is. I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty rattled after this, thinking like, well, I didn't really see that there was a need for that to happen. It's just a race, you know what I mean? And like we spoke about before, it does have the chance of bringing the whole peloton down. And then you're talking people's jobs are at risk. So I naturally go up to him, try my best to keep a cool head. If this was 10 years ago, it would have been pretty heated. And tell him just to calm down. And I think Josh gives him a bit of a pat on the back and tells him to settle down as well. But it's on. It is absolutely on down here at Footscray. Meanwhile, up the road, while this is all happening, Deano and the two other boys are just riding nice and easy pace, keeping the group in front. We can't see them. We haven't been able to see them for a while now, and that's the thing. If you're rolling really, really strong turns and you've got a group trying to chase that, are too busy attacking each other or bumping each other off the course, then it's going to mean it's really, really hard to chase that one back. So let's skip a little bit further ahead to some more action. This is a bit of edgier seat sort of documentary action. We pride ourselves here at the Fresh Crits Studios to bring the highest production value. So we've got Nath with his cam on his bike now, with Harry in front of him, and I'm in front of Harry. You can see this is another opportunity for Harry to have another dig. He's lining me up, but he doesn't have a dig. He comes in, gives it a little bit of a left jab. Not too sure what the point of that was, to be completely honest. He's just got it in for me. It's one of those days. He's seeing red. Obviously, I go jump onto his wheel. I'm trying to want to keep everything in the loop. We've got Joshy up the road again. It is all happening here. Absolutely insane stuff here at Footscray. So a couple of minutes passed since the last jab. And obviously, we're still on NATO's cam with Harry in front. And Harry's putting a pretty easy tempo, all things considered, when Joshy comes around the side.
Oh, Josh is fired up.
And it is safe to say that after this race, I'm not going to have many friends if I come back to Footscray. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? The whole peloton, well, not the whole peloton, just two riders really, really fired up and don't want anything to do with us being there. And it's just a bit of a change of pace, I think. So, look, or me really, ahead and again, things go another level. Stay tuned. Again, we're back about 2 minutes after the last incident where Joshy gave us a bit of a spray. We're about 11 Ks out to the finish, 20 minutes left of the race. Deano and the boys are still up the road. And there's just been, attacks, but not really. Like, there's a couple guys that come to the front, but never quite strong enough to stay up there. I'm trying to get a bit of a roll happening, calling riders through. You can see number 2 happily slots in. He knows what's going on. He knows he has to roll turns in order for them to bring this back. And that's where this rider here pulls off. I ask him to come through, but he's cooked. Spoke to him later. Seeing the rear cam, Harry lines me up and pushes me 2 bike lengths wide. And that was the final straw. That was a fairly decent hit. Obviously, we're all pretty feeble individuals upper body wise on the bike, but that was one that just pushed the limits a little bit too hard. And you can see NATO here, he's riding up to Harry to give him a spray. That was just one step too far. It was all kind of fun and games. Well, not fun and games, but it was all, bit of push and shove is fine, but that just went that one step too far. And it's the sort of thing that all it takes is, if my hands are not in the drops, they're sitting up on the hoods, or I'm taking a drink out of the water bottle, only got one hand on the bars, and I cop a bump, I'm coming down. It's bringing the whole peloton down. A lot of the guys that we race with rely on their hands to do work, so they'll be out of jobs. There's so many risks that are involved in crit racing, and you don't want to add to that, Look, at the end of the day, we've all done dumb shit when we're young. I can hands down say that I still do dumb shit today, but it's just the lessons you learn, I guess. And since this video, Harry has actually come out and he's, the club have sanctioned him for this, and he's going to walk away feeling fairly sheepish and knowing full well that he's made a mistake, and it is what it is, I suppose. But yeah, very, very strange what happened down here today, and but this story is not quite over yet. It takes a great man to put something to bed like this, and we're going to see exactly how that happens. There are those times where someone you look up to or something gives you the old chat, look, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. This reminds me of that one moment. We've got Nico about to roll in front of Harry, and he gives it this one. He gives it the finger point, no more. And the funny thing is, after Nico gives him a bit of the finger point, no more, we don't see Harry anymore in this race. I think he pulls out. So it just takes one individual to step up in a moment like this to calm everyone down. And that's the end of the story, guys. So with under 10Ks left, there's still a fair bit in this race. Yes, those 3 guys are still up the road, but there's every chance. Points are still on offer for 4th place. So let's skip a little bit further ahead and we'll pick it up where the action starts to heat up once again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the race heats up. We are currently coming into the bell lap, which means there is 1 lap to go. And you can see the peloton is kind of together, but not quite. It's quite strung out. There's been several attacks and it's just kind of splintering a little bit. Deano and the boys are still up the road. We're going to look at that footage a little bit later on. But one guy has just gone up the road and everyone's looking around saying who's going to chase this back. And it's that sort of hesitation. That's all it takes for that rider. But Joshy then comes from behind, gives it a good bit of speed over the top of us. However, it's that sort of attack that has ignited the chase from the rest of the guys behind as Nato identifies that that is a really threatening move. So he gets on the front and rips his absolute 1 minute power. But for him, he does these efforts in his sleep. So he's been tasked to chase down Josh, and Josh has jumped onto the wheel of the guy who was already in front, whilst the rest of the peloton is doing whatever they can to keep into the bunch. Nato starts to get really super aero as he gets closer and closer and closer. Now, you might be thinking, let's sit in behind Josh, but Nato has other ideas. He attacks straight over the top, forces Josh to jump on his wheel, and now Josh has been put in a really exposed position because as soon as Nato peels off, Josh is going to be eating all the wind. Now, just watch how Nato takes this next corner. He hugs that inside line to stop Josh from cutting on the inside and attacking him up the inside on the main straight. So Nato starts to sprint, essentially now putting Josh right into the wind. I sit in for what I think is way too short of a time because essentially all I'm doing is leading out Jamie, who eventually rolls me on the finish line, and that is the bike race, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put the results up on the screen now, but yeah, the mistake I made in that final sprint is I should have come out up from Josh's wheel just a little bit later, and essentially that wouldn't have allowed Jamie to sit in my draft as long, and that's the only thing I could have really have done there. Now let's have a bit of a look at how the last lap for Dino's race went, for the race for first, second and third, and then we'll close this one out. All right, so we're on board with Dino's cam. We've got Jesse in the rear cam, should be showing up now in the outrageous skinny, I love hate it, and Bjorn in third wheel, and Dino's sitting on the front, you know, and essentially it's just all foxing now. They're not pushing too many watts. They're just trying to keep everything together. Well, Dino's looks like he's riding recovery at 400 watts there, and it's a lot of foxing, a lot of looking around going on. Now, essentially, they can afford to do that because when they cross the start-finish line, I counted about a 30-35 second gap on the group behind. But this is where, at this corner, this is where things get really interesting. So there's a lot of looking around there by Jesse. And it's at this corner where Dino takes the inside line. Jesse swings nice and wide and almost encourages Bjorn to come round and chase and get onto the wheel so Jesse's not kept second wheel. Dino looks around, notices he's got a gap, and absolutely drills it. And already has a 4 to 5 bike lengths on the guys behind him. And that's the last you're going to see on him. You cannot give a rider of Dean's potential this much space on the last lap. It's just impossible. Essentially, it's now forced Jesse to chase, which is exactly what he didn't want to do. Bjorn gets to sit in his draft, basically, you know, getting a nice old lead out. Dino takes this corner really well. 196 beats a minute. We want 197, and that's essentially the race over. He gets out of the saddle, puts in the last big effort, but the race is all done and dusted. That's the bike race. That's it. It's all over. Dino takes first. Bjorn picks up a nice second. Jamie third. And that's race over, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, you know the drill. I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Ciao.